The new trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day is finally here after dozens of leaks that I definitely didn't watch. I'm pretty sure Sony's password is 1234 at this rate.
You're the head of security and your password is password?
I don't feel good about it either.
But thank God it arrived after them edging us all day long because I didn't walk through blood and bones to get my early access tickets just to not get any new footage with them. Seriously, waiting to get those tickets for an hour is harder than anything any Marine has ever done. I deserve a veteran's discount now, but I will happily take a trailer that looks this good instead. I kneel at the altar of Destined Daniel Cretton. My goat just gets it, man. You can tell he poured his heart and soul into this movie with every new piece of footage as Spidey is moving around in ways I never could have dreamed of. The fact that we have him making a web tornado to fight the Hand? I've seen enough. This is gonna be the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. The amount of sauce this trailer has is incredible. Pun very much so intended. Everything from the color grading to the action to the drama to Peter Parker being so crushingly alone is all I ever could have wanted from this movie and then some, especially that last point. The biggest thing this trailer does is by far giving us our first look at the return of the Savage Hulk for the first time in what, 11 years? Fun fact, the last time we saw the Hulk fully transform on screen was in the Avengers 14 years ago. It's honestly crazy to think that the Hulk has been civilized more than savage for the majority of his time in the MCU, but now nature is healing as we are finally moving back towards a traditional Hulk. I never thought it was going to happen in a Spider-Man movie of all places, but thank God it is because the story they're crafting with him and Spider-Man is going to be beautiful to witness. Universal can kick rocks. We found a way to win regardless of them not wanted to play ball. Up top, I can't tell you enough how happy I am that the Hulk is scary again. We're only gifted 3 shots of the Hulk in this trailer, but it is more than enough for me to see that they have finally fixed his presentation again. Just look at the way the Hulk is shot in scenes like this as his face is completely shadowed and he's just this big, for lack of a better term, hulking monster towering over Peter. If I had to guess, the trailer editing really makes it seem like Sadie Sink's mystery character, who is definitely Jean Grey, is controlling the Hulk here, especially with all the body hopping she's doing in the film. So that's going to be really exciting as she basically forces Bruce out of this protective state he's put himself into and gives him no choice but to confront his other identity. Even going as far as then making Bruce's biggest fears come true as he's being used as a weapon. There's a lot of really juicy narrative drama that comes with using the Hulk like this, and I cannot wait to see how they play around with it. An unstoppable force of pure rage being piloted around by an angry mutant who was rejected by the world. That's one of the coolest ideas I've ever seen as it benefits pretty much everybody in this movie and gets the Hulk back on track. Let's just hope they ignore the scar-shaped elephant in the room here because Banner allowing him to have that haircut immediately makes him the worst father in the MCU. And one of them was a genocidal planet. I don't mind the Smart Hulk stuff as much as other people. I think it does a good job wrapping up his arc in the Infinity Saga. The dabbing's not great, don't love that, but the way they've handled the character since then, he's been disconnected from what makes him most interesting. Now that we've put some time between those big story moments, it just feels right to return to a more savage Hulk. To me, the Hulk is always at his best when he's being presented as a true horror character. If you haven't already, please go read Immortal Hulk because it's my favorite Hulk comic and handles this idea perfectly. Whether that be psychological horror or body horror, it all has a very important place in this character when he was built on and feels right at home with that kind of storytelling. So to see Brand New Day present him in this light where he's shadowed in the darkness and feels like a true imposing presence is a sight for sore eyes and a step in the right direction. The tragic monster tale that comes with a character like the Hulk is so fascinating to watch, and it is long overdue for the MCU to properly explore that. And having it done through the perspective of someone like Spider-Man is a great decision. The fact that we're actually going to see Spider-Man fight the Hulk in a movie still doesn't feel real to me. This is the stuff of dreams now being brought into reality. If you told me this was gonna happen a decade ago, I wouldn't have believed you and would have probably had you put in a padded cell, but thank God it came true. I cannot wait to see the Hulk clap Spider-Man from behind. Yeah, I heard it too, I'm sorry. Let's just move on to something more child-friendly. I know it's just a toy, but with how Peter's moving around in the rest of this trailer doing things like a web tornado, I really hope we get to see this in live action as he uses webs in creative ways to make a giant web boxing glove to fight the Hulk. You can't tell me that wouldn't be the hardest thing you've ever seen. Also, the fact that Peter is sneaking into Bruce's classes just to ask him questions is a great bit, but I really do hope he's still attending Empire State University. I really hope they didn't just skip over the college era during that 4-year time jump between No Way Home and Brand New Day, as that's something we really haven't seen in film before, and this would be a great way to properly dive into that as Peter now goes back into school. They probably want to make this a story of isolation more than anything, so I get the apprehension to stay away from that, but there's a lot of potential to see how Peter isolates himself even more in social settings like that, where he's forced to talk to other people in school, but still cuts himself off. It's that kind of stuff I really want to see more of. But to get back on track with Bruce, I really love the line when he says to Peter, "How would you decide what parts of nature are good or bad?" It's such a quick line, but does a really good job showing how Peter is trying to find a loophole and fight nature just to run away from his problems. Instead of going to the root of this problem and fixing his mutation by making healthy decisions, he's trying to get around that because he's too scared to interact with people again, thus now putting him in this position where he's effectively trying to play God to get out of this circumstance he's in right now. It's a really interesting way to see him kind of skirt around this great responsibility, and having Bruce be the character to teach him that lesson just makes perfect sense considering that he's in that position right now. He spent years of his life fighting who he was before he came to this compromise, and even then, he is still not done growing. This parallel of both Peter and Bruce becoming monsters for neglecting a part of themselves has infinite potential in this movie. I cannot wait to see these two characters finally come together and then bond over that kind of growth. Honestly, they both really need to learn that lesson if they want to live a healthier lifestyle, as Peter needs to stop hiding from being Peter Parker because it is quite literally changing the person he is for the worse, while Bruce needs to stop locking the Hulk away because it's damaging their relationship and he doesn't even know it. There is a very clear connection with these two characters and the trajectory their arcs have been on. I think it is a genius move to put them together so they both come out of Brand New Day stronger than ever with a clear sense of direction, as they feel more like their classic comic counterparts, especially when it comes to the Hulk. More than anything, I am hoping that Brand New Day addresses the fact that the Hulk has dissociative identity disorder. Banner and the Hulk are just two of the many alters within his head, and this movie should explore that, as Bruce has been locking the Hulk part away, trying to quote-unquote reap the benefits of the brains and the brawn. Meanwhile, he's not having healthy communication with any of the alters in his system. That is when the Hulk is most interesting to me, as it's shown that they are supposed to be a compatible relationship within each other, and they can't live without the other. Even better when it's all done in this horrifying context of how scary the Hulk truly is, showing that fearing him and fighting him isn't the solution, and it's only through acceptance that Banner can move on and grow as a person. Oh my god, something like that is so exciting to me. And I know that's a lot to read from just 3 shots of the Hulk in the trailer, but I promise you, I see it written in the stars and it is beautiful. One last thing I do want to address regarding the Hulk, though, is if he's going to be any color other than green. There have been rumors for a long time now that we're going to see the gray Hulk in this movie, and for as much as I do want to see Joe fix it in the MCU, I don't think it's going to happen. Trust me, I would love to be proven wrong here, but unless Marvel is doing some classic trailer editing lying, I have a strong feeling it's just going to be what we've seen before in movies like Age of Ultron. There, when the Hulk is being mind-controlled, he has this desaturated green color, but he's still very clearly the Savage Hulk. Now, maybe he ends the movie as the Grey Hulk, and that's the status quo going forward, but from everything we've seen in the trailer, it seems like he's just gonna stay green for now. And honestly, that's fine with me. For as much as I have been talking about the Hulk, this is still a Spider-Man movie first and foremost. There's probably not gonna be enough time to develop the Hulk that much in one movie like this, so let's just save all of that for the future after I've barged into Universal Studios and forced them to make that Hulk movie already. That being said, while the Hulk might not be gray, Jean is... Don't boo me, that was a good segue. Also, you may have noticed I'm just blatantly referring to Sadie Sink's character as Jean Grey because at this point, it's the worst kept secret known to man. I feel bad about that too because I'm sure this is going to be a big mystery throughout the film until we get the reveal at the end of the movie. But I mean, like, come on guys, I denied it at first too, but the facts are the facts. I'm just gonna put all the evidence on the screen right here so we can accept this as a universal truth and then move on, because the sooner we do, the more you can enjoy what this movie is trying to say. For the longest time, I really didn't understand why Jean Grey of all characters was being introduced in a Spider-Man movie, which honestly is exciting in itself, the fact that they're doing something nobody predicted. Usually when that happens, I feel like it comes from inspiration, but after having so much time to think of all the possibilities, I think I finally get it. From the looks of it, Jean is also alone as the world rejects her for being a mutant. That right there is already a very interesting comparison when you contrast her to Peter, as he's also completely alone, which we love to see, but unlike Jean, he's doing that by choice. And because of that, his isolation fuels his sadness, while for Jean, it makes her angrier at the world, as they're trying to hunt her down and kidnap her just for existing. That is a fascinating dynamic they can play around with, as Peter might be the only person who can truly understand Jean and the position she's in right now, but even then, he can't truly relate to her as there's that disconnect. Still, you can do some really interesting stuff as these two bond over their loneliness and become friends. Imagine Peter finally realizing that he has to open up and allow himself to have that life as Peter Parker again, extending that hand out to Jean and teaching her that same lesson by offering friendship rather than combat. That sounds so peak to me and would give us a really satisfying conclusion. Who doesn't love the power of friendship? When you think about it, they kind of solve each other's problems, as all Jean wants is to be accepted by the world, while Peter learns he needs to have friends again. They complete each other together. It is genius character writing. I know the marketing is trying to paint her as a mysterious villain, but I don't really buy that. She's definitely going to have an antagonistic role in the film, but I don't think it's going to be as a villain. It's just going to be someone who has contrasting ideals to Peter as they clash with each other. I think it is such a bold swing to make sure that Brand New Day doesn't have a true main villain. There's already more than enough other villains in this movie that can fill that void. To me, it is so much more interesting if Peter himself is effectively the main villain of his own movie, causing all the problems for himself, and it's only when he makes those healthy decisions that he's able to grow and put them to bed. I also really like this as an opportunity to see Jean Grey shine on her own. In live action especially, it seems like Jean's character has always been tied to other heroes. Whether it be her relationship with Wolverine as she was cucking Scott in that original X-Men trilogy, or those movies doing a Phoenix Saga on any day that ended in Y. We never truly got to spend time with Jean as Jean. So being able to introduce her in a Spider-Man movie like this, when she's able to be her own character disconnected from the X-Men, is incredibly exciting to me, and rich with storytelling potential that we haven't seen before in live action. We're finally able to refocus the spotlight on Jean Grey, the character, rather than Jean Grey, the X-Men. It's a really great way to set her up for the future, all while reinforcing Peter's character arc as you see these two heroes relate to each other on a really personal level that feels impactful and earned. Stuff like that is what gets me so excited for this movie, and I think it's going to be really cool seeing how Jean Grey plays into all of that, as the MCU is introducing their first big member of the X-Men. How could you not get excited about something like that? The fact that we're going to have a member of the X-Men, Spider-Man, the Hulk, and the Punisher in the same movie? Even just a few years ago, that would have been a legal nightmare, and now we're watching it play out on the big screen. What a time to be alive. The Marvel Universe has never felt more complete than in this movie. While we're on the topic of the Punisher real quick, we don't get as much of him in this trailer after he hit Peter with a car, which I'm still laughing over. But what we do get is very interesting, as he seems to be working alongside MJ a little bit in this, as she's encouraging him to go help Spider-Man out, which is a crazy dynamic I never expected to see in my life, but I'm more so interested in what we're not seeing. I don't know if I can get away with posting this without having my head blown clean off my body, but there was a leaked photo a while back showing the Punisher and Jean Grey working together, which I was hesitant to believe at first, but I think this trailer reinforces that idea. When we see Jean freeze everybody in New York City, only two people remain unfrozen: Spider-Man and the Punisher for some reason. Why would Jean leave serial killer the Punisher unfrozen if they weren't going to have a strong bond in this movie? We already know Frank has a soft spot for lost cubs, so this could be a really interesting way to naturally tie him into the story as he's taken on the role of protecting Jean from a corrupt world. I can't say I ever expected to see that in my lifetime, because I don't think the Punisher and Jean Grey have even shared a panel with each other in the comics, but it's really cool to see how all of these different plot lines are converging and how the characters relate to each other in a way that feels natural. More than anything though, I'm just really excited to finally see a version of the Punisher who's actually, you know, the Punisher and not retiring every 5 goddamn minutes. For as much as I enjoyed One Last Kill for what it was, I'm so glad we finally got that out of our system. Earlier on in the month, noted nap hater John Bernthal decided to tell us something when he said that in Brand New Day, Frank Castle is perfectly at peace in a world of absolute darkness. He's not looking for a hand to pull him out of the hole he's in, he's fine living there. In fact, all he wants to do is dig deeper, and that is what I've been waiting to see for the last decade. This is a version of the Punisher who's no longer afraid to be the Punisher and has embraced his role as the Punisher. I've said the word Punisher so many times it doesn't feel real anymore, but that's how excited I am to see the Punisher be the Punisher. I will say, the one benefit of having a version of the Punisher who loves to retire is that he's gone through the exact same things Peter's going through right now. Frank Castle is what happens when you lose yourself in your identity. He has completely given up on ever being Frank Castle again and has embraced his role as the Punisher. That is his only identity in life nowadays, as he eats, sleeps, and breathes punishing criminals. So in that sense, he can act as a cautionary tale for Peter, showing him what's going to happen if he continues down the path he's on. Besides the fact that his eyes are going black and he's losing control of his own mind, but more so the fact that he's going to be a sad, broken man if he continues like that. For as cool as the Punisher is, nobody should ever want to be the Punisher. He's not a role model or an inspiration. He's more so a force of nature doing the hard thing because somebody has to do it. And Peter Parker is not built for that. He's a 21-year-old kid who still has so much life left to live. He's not some war veteran who's been traumatized more times than I can count that only gets pain relief when he kills somebody. I still want Frank to have a very tense relationship with Spider-Man. They should never really see eye to eye with each other, and Peter should always be humbling Frank for his self-righteous nonsense. But if they use the Punisher in this movie as someone there to knock some sense into Peter and show him he can't keep doing this, that would be brilliant. Also, there's no bigger wake-up call in life than the Punisher telling you to lock in. That's how you truly know you've become a bum. For as much as it does make sense to include the Punisher in a Spider-Man movie, considering that he's made his first appearance in a Spider-Man comic as a villain, the characters they are choosing for this film aren't just to get butts in seats, which they admittedly will, but the deeper emotional significance as they are tying the story together in a very rewarding way. The Hulk exists in this film, so Peter has somebody he can bond with and talk to about cutting off a part of yourself and the negative impacts that has on your life. Jean Grey is there to show the dangers of isolation and how it can make you feel resentful towards the world, and Frank is there as a cautionary tale to warn Peter that he can't keep going down this path. Having the Hulk, Jean Grey, and the Punisher in a Spider-Man movie might seem out of place at first, but when you look at the way these characters can interact with each other, it feels so right. That kind of direction gives me a ton of faith that Brand New Day has a perfect understanding of Peter's character. But here's the thing, I know that for a fact because this trailer is doing exactly what I was hoping to see and making Peter Parker suffer as much as humanly possible. You already know I love to see Spider-Man's life be a living hell, and this trailer only reinforces that even more as we see his mental health crumbling in every possible way. That's my Spider-Man, and one of the things I'm most looking forward to in this film, as horrifying as that might be to say, I cannot wait to watch his life be over. When Peter Parker suffers, we all win. I hope to see him crying. Look at this bum, spending his nights all alone watching his friends' Instagram stories from afar, and stalking MJ on social media as he tortures himself. Mentally, he is so shattered, and I love it. Using Peter's mental state as this warning for what happens when you isolate yourself from other people sounds so peak. This movie is going to hurt and heal me. It's so funny that Tom Holland did research on what Spider-Man fans want to see, and then after spending 5 minutes on those forums, he made a movie about how we all have to go outside and touch grass more. For as much as I do love to see Peter Parker miserable, the only thing I love more than that is watching him overcome those terrible times and become an even stronger character because of it. This movie putting so much of an importance on community and building out those social relationships is going to be so powerful to watch. It hits a little too close to home, but maybe it's the kick in the ass we all need to hear in this world that is trying to monetize your attention and steal it at every possible moment. There is nothing more rewarding in life than building out these social relationships you have, and I think that using a Spider-Man story to put that idea out there to the world, especially all the kids nowadays who are glued to their phones, is beautiful. This is the most I think I've ever been interested in Spider-Man in live action, and we haven't even seen it yet. It feels so real and raw watching him take on this extra burden of loneliness to the point where his closest friend is a tombstone, all because he's scared to see someone else get hurt. That is so brutal as they are putting him through the ringer and then some. Also, I know this is controversial, but I really like how he's working alongside MJ in this movie. It makes sense considering that she would remember they worked together in the past, but I wasn't expecting this film to openly embrace that. I figured they would want to have them as separate as possible, and that was my original idea as well at first. But the more I think about it, the more I love it, because it means that MJ is just out of arm's reach from Peter the entire movie, as they are twisting the knife even more as he denies himself happiness just to quote-unquote protect her, when in reality, it's doing more harm than anything. If you want to make the ending of No Way Home matter, then you need to fully explore the consequences of that, and you can only do that when MJ is playing a big role in the movie, to directly see how Peter not being in her life is impacting her and him. She is just as important of a character as he is, and I think it's a great idea to see that aspect of her life in this new lens. It also means that with MJ still around, Peter is consciously making a decision to stay away from her rather than her just being out of sight and out of mind. I even love that Peter just can't help himself and is constantly looking over MJ, going to house parties just to make sure she's okay and getting a look into what her new life is like. It makes that sacrifice hit even harder when he's given opportunity upon opportunity to fix that, and he sticks to his word no matter how much it's taking a mental toll on on him and probably her. MJ is inarguably the most important love interest in Marvel Comics. These two need to be endgame together. I would still love to see Gwen come into the mix and add a little fun love triangle in there, but I don't want MJ written out as if she's a character who only exists when Peter Parker is on screen. It's really nice that we're gonna get more of her when she's not tied to Peter Parker's hip, and hopefully they can fix one of my biggest complaints from the previous trilogy and actually give MJ more to do as a character. And an extension of that is how Ned is trying to figure out Spider-Man's identity as well. They are going all out on exploring the consequences of that spell, as Ned has this lingering remembrance in his head trying to figure out who Spider-Man is once and for all. I really love the in-universe Spidey tracker they made online that Ned built himself. Not only is it a really fun way to market the movie, but they officially made him the CEO of sex, so that absolutely justifies his inclusion here. I know people wanted MJ and Ned out of this movie, but I can't help but see all the benefits of them being here when it enriches the story so much and makes Peter's character arc even stronger. It's even better with how they contrast his life as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. In the fleeting moments we see him as Peter Parker during this trailer, it's all in service of making him as sad as possible, watching his friends live out their dream lives without him. There's no joy in his eyes or whimsy in his life, as he's just left alone with his own thoughts, and that is the absolute worst place to be. What I love most of all is that in opposition to that, we see him having the time of his life as Spider-Man, being quippier than ever. First of all, it is so long overdue to see Tom's version of Spider-Man embrace that quippiness again. They did a really great job showing that in Civil War and Homecoming, but I think that Far From Home and No Way Home didn't really focus on it as much just because of the circumstances they were in. So now to see segments like the end of the trailer where Peter is cracking jokes and being the most annoying possible version of himself is beautiful, as we get this return to form for Spider-Man as he uses humor as a coping mechanism just to get by. Anytime he's in that costume, I hope they make him as quippy as possible. He needs to be having the time of his life as Spider-Man, so when we get that hard cut to his life as Peter, it is so much more bleak and depressing, as they help you understand why he's obsessed with being Spider-Man, because it's the only place he feels happy. That difference is going to do a lot to show us exactly why he hates being Peter so much and the benefits of being Spider-Man full-time. I love how much this movie is seemingly focusing on his mental health to really make No Way Home's ending matter and feel important. This one shot here honestly tells the entire story better than I ever could. The stark contrast between that vibrant costume and Peter's shadowed face is the perfect visualization of everything he's going through mentally right now. Despite the fact that Spider-Man is looking better than ever, Peter Parker is so much worse off, as he's being consumed by the darkness that is loneliness. It's literally just one single frame, but it is such a creative way to directly show us what Peter is going through in this film. The Peter Parker century of torture doesn't end there though, because of this whole big mutation story the movie is also exploring, as being Spider-Man full-time is having a negative influence on him physically and mentally. That shot goes so hard, by the way. I love how the light reflects off those voided out pupils. Toby said it best, and now this movie is carrying on that tradition of making Spider-Man a gift and a curse. The idea that Peter Parker, ignoring being Peter Parker and putting everything into Spider-Man, is causing him to physically mutate as he becomes more spider than man rocks. That being said, I do hope the organic webbing goes away when he has a healthier life balance, because these synthetic webs are just so much more interesting. I don't care how much it makes sense for the guy named Spider-Man to shoot organic webs out of his body. The drama that comes with scenes where he runs out of webbing is rich for storytelling potential, and I don't want to lose out on that, but I will happily put up with organic webbing when it's being done in such a compelling way like this, where the organic webbing makes sense. Also, if we can just pay way too much attention to the details real quick, I love the visual differences between the organic and synthetic webbing. The organic webbing is so much more slimy and erratic, with this unpredictable pattern that feels like it was born from the chaos of nature, while the synthetic webs are precise and exact, as if they were scientifically calculated to be the perfect web. It's little things like that that go the extra mile to show me how much love and care the creative team has when making these decisions. These are things you can barely see unless you're looking up close, but go a long way to sell how much different the organic webbing truly is. And also, God, is it gross. They actually made me excited to see Peter shoot that slimy white stuff out of himself, and I just realized how wrong that sounds, and I'm very sorry, but I want to see how the old web shooter works. Oh, also, before I forget, in regards to Peter's mutating body and powers, I have to make a correction. Sadly, I don't think he's mutating into Man-Spider anymore. Maybe we see him in some kind of dream sequence, but for as much as I desperately want to see more Spider-Man body horror, especially after Spider-Noir, I think they're actually going to adapt the other here. For starters, Marvel Comics is reprinting that book alongside Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and they love to do that kind of synergy all the time. But more importantly than that, with what this trailer is showing us, and the ideas of mutations, it feels so much more in line with the story of The Other from the comics. The core of that story is that after Peter dies, he's brought back to life through supernatural spider means, while the Other, a powerful being who's also a godly spider totem with links to the web and life and destiny, it's a lot to process, I know, but they're trying to make him embrace being a spider more. That first teaser had Keith David of all people narrating it, talking about how spiders have 3 life cycles. And the more I've thought about that and the fact that Peter's eyes are blacking out, it just screams The Other to me more than anything else. I don't think they're gonna go all out with that story because it can get pretty mystical and over the top, which I don't love. I could definitely see Destined making that work, but I want things to stay emotionally grounded, and I feel like that would go a little too far conceptually. Still, I really do like the idea of Peter's body mutating as it takes more of a hold on him and he begins to run on instinct. If you're able to take the good parts of that story and play around with some body horror and the internal battle between spider and man, as Peter's putting too much pressure on himself, there's a way you can really make that story work and feel like a natural progression from where we left him off in No Way Home. Pull away from the cosmic nightmare that The Other can be as they're introducing so many otherworldly elements and embrace all of the practical changes happening to Peter's unhealthy lifestyle choices. That way, the solution to Peter's problems won't be fighting some spider god, but it's going to be a metaphor for his unhealthy habits and him needing to make changes for the sake of his mind and body. Okay, now that I've been talking for, 25 minutes about all that character development stuff, it's time for the return of my world-famous segment, a bunch of stuff I didn't naturally know how to fit into the video, but still want to talk about. Up first, I really love the scorpion fight that this trailer kicks off with. They know we've been waiting 9 long, agonizing years to finally see that promise fulfilled from the Homecoming post-credit scene and are giving us what we've been dying to see. And it is just incredible that the scorpion finally gets his hands on Spider-Man and is immediately getting ragdolled around. Peter embarrassed him without any hesitation. The last time Scorpion fought Spider-Man, he was apologizing after every punch. Now jump ahead 9 years and he's swinging him into moving traffic, folding him like an omelet without breaking a sweat. I know it's The Other taking over there, but he's on demon time and I love it. Can we just get a replay of that swing real quick? Because good lord, it is nasty. That's the good stuff right there. I really hope that this embarrassment inspires Scorpion to be a recurring villain, constantly trying to one-up Spider-Man and get his revenge, only getting more angry and petty with every single attempt. I don't think that Scorpion is going to have the biggest role in this movie outside of maybe an opening act fight, but I do really love how dangerous his presence feels as this chaotic third party trying to ruin Peter's life. The Scorpion's entire MO is that he wants to figure out Spider-Man's identity. It was all he cared about in that Homecoming post-credit scene, and now he's had 9 years to stew over it. After Peter worked so hard trying to fit the genie back into the bottle, the Scorpion represents undoing all of that. He is a real credible threat and someone who has this long-lasting vendetta against Spider-Man that could act as the trigger that spawns his mutation. Perhaps the rage Peter feels deep down is what helps him lock in and fight back against the Scorpion, causing his body to react in a way that gives him those new abilities. That fight should act as the inciting incident for the film as Peter notices these changes for the first time and starts to become concerned. That way, it all spawns from this real place of emotion and clues us in on how Peter is the direct cause of his problems. Next up, is that Marissa Tomei doing a voiceover as Aunt May in this trailer? I'm not hearing ghosts. I mean, no, she's dead, so I am hearing ghosts. But like, that's definitely her, right? It's a pretty safe bet to say that she's going to make a flashback appearance, which just feels right. Brand New Day would have been the first movie to not feature Aunt May, and now that trend gets to continue as she still gets to play an important role through flashbacks. But it's her dialogue that gives us the biggest indication of Peter's arc in this movie. She says, "This whole thing can get really scary, but the people who love you because you're you. Never forget that, no matter how powerful you become." That is the exact kind of message Peter needs to hear right now, so I assume this is going to be some big third act flashback when he's all broken and beaten down with nowhere else to go as he visits May's grave again. Maybe this time though, instead of showing up as Peter Parker, he shows up as Spider-Man to do some visual symbolism for how he's completely given up on himself. As for when he's potentially flashing back to, I think we're finally going to see Peter and May have this heart-to-heart over the identity reveal that we never got to see after Homecoming and before Far From Home. For as much as I do enjoy those movies, that was the biggest missed opportunity to completely skip out on any drama between those two, as when we picked back up with them, everything was just fine. So now, because Destined Daniel Cretton is the absolute GOAT, he's potentially going back and fixing that mistake as we get to hear that conversation and see how it is affecting Peter in the modern day. It'll be even better considering just how much he's misinterpreting her words in this movie, thinking that because he has this great power and great responsibility, he has to bear that burden alone. But it's only once he's on the verge of losing everything, including his own mind, that he locks in and hears hears those words in the flashback sequence that inspires him to be greater. Oh my god, I got chills just thinking about it. That's the kind of inspirational speech that would make you run through a wall while you're sobbing. If Brand New Day pulls off something like that, it's gonna solidify MCU Spider-Man as the definitive Spider-Man adaptation. Then the last thing I want to mention about this trailer is actually something that's not even in the trailer at all, that being Tombstone. I love that they aren't featuring Tombstone in any of the marketing so far. Sure, we've seen him in promo art, but that's very different than showing him in live action during a trailer. I hope to God that Sony have the restraint to not show him whatsoever. It would be so smart to keep him in the shadows so it hits even harder when he shows up out of nowhere and beats the shit out of Spider-Man. I want to see him as this invisible hand pulling the strings behind the scenes to get absolute power, especially now that the Kingpin is out of the picture. He should be stepping in to fill that void while Peter is preoccupied and become the new Kingpin of crime for New York City. There have been tons of rumors about Tombstone not playing a big role in this movie because he's going to be a bigger figure throughout the overall trilogy itself, and I really love that direction for his character. If they play their cards right, he should be the end-all be-all big bad of this entire trilogy, slowly building him up more and more with each new movie until he feels like an unstoppable force and immovable object. He is such a great character and a physical match for Spider-Man that could give us some really dynamic fight scenes, and I cannot wait to see these two dance on screen. All I ask is that they run this moment back from Spectacular Spider-Man.
Pale guy in a suit doesn't
God, it would be so satisfying watching Tombstone hit him with the nastiest combo of all time, letting him know who really runs the streets. I get so pumped talking about Brand New Day. It seems like it's going to be the Spider-Man movie of my dreams, giving us all I could have ever asked for and more. I will defend the John Watts Spider-Man movies with my whole heart. I love that trilogy so much, and we couldn't get Brand New Day without it. But Destined Daniel Cretton is taking the ball and running with it, improving on literally every single aspect of MCU Spider-Man. I would expect nothing less from the guy who directed Short Term 12, a masterpiece that everyone needs to watch. And I pray to every god out there we are lucky enough to see Destined direct an entire MCU Spider-Man trilogy. He just gets this character like nobody else. It is so clear that Spider-Man was a childhood favorite of his when we see the things he's making him do in this movie. It truly does feel like Spider-Man is real now, and that is spectacular to see. But you know what? If Spider-Man is real now, then he's gonna need a supervillain, right? I mean, I do love to see him suffer, and he did make me wait so long to get those tickets. Oh my god. I think I'm destined to be Spider-Man's archenemy. I guess I gotta go to New York now and fight Spider-Man, so while I go do that, why don't you just let me know your thoughts on the Brand New Day trailer? I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm swinging you full speed into a moving car Scorpion style. Only I'm not being influenced by the other. That's just me straight up doing that to you if you don't hit that subscribe button right now.